You know, I totally left the thing upstairs. The thing that I need is upstairs. Mother effer. Don't you hate it when you leave the thing that you need upstairs and you can't get to it? It's a terrible, terrible feeling. But what can you do? It is what it is, and that's all that it is. You know? You know. When you know, you know. And when you know, you know, you know. I'm just going to share this real quick somewhere. It's a good thing I can do it with my computer instead of my phone, which I don't have it. I'm just sound like I'm just babbling, like a babbling idiot, like always. It's like, what is he even talking about? Why is he talking like this? He's saying weird shit. Is he talking to himself? Yeah, maybe I am. What's it to you? Just give me 1 second, guys. Yeah, just give me 1 second, okay? Just a moment while I do this. Any news in the world? I don't know. Misfits related. Misfits Samhain Danzig related. I don't think anything's going on. I do know Danzig's pressing up. He just keeps pressing those Danzig sings Elvis variants like they're friggin' like they're gold, man. Tons of them. No, it's not going to let me do that. Tons of them. Hold on 1 more second. What's going on, Peter? How are you? Peter's in the house, everybody. As I've said in the past, hey, how are you, Russell Casualty? As I've said in the past, I really just think we need some Samhain vinyl. Just like print that shit up. Like it ain't no thing but a chicken wing, you know? Would just be really, really simple thing. Peter says that Doyle's hot sauce is coming back out. I never tried it. Is it good? Kind of weird when it comes to hot sauce. All right, let's just do the quick pluggy plug. Oh shit. You may have noticed that I am sort of putting up, I'm like trying to like pull out like little micro chunks of content from the longer episodes. Like, for instance, there was a whole tangent on Sid Vicious and the Misfits. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to make this as its own video. Same thing with Doyle and his pink hair. Why did Arthur Googie leave the Misfits? Stuff like that, because I think it's so self-contained. And I think it works really well. Peter says that the hot sauce is good on pizza. Cool. That's cool. All right, real quick. I'm just going to roll through this. So look, this is the latest and greatest way. There's a lot of ways to support this channel and the creation of the art, the content, if you want, whatever you want to call it. One of them is checking out our November Fire sour cream pure natural shirts. And this very documentary for which this page is a thing, for which this page is, I don't know how to phrase that. This is the official Lodi merch. As you can see, here is JFK with a demon vein growing out of his forehead. Untrademarked demon vein. Get a pink mug. You can get a neck warmer. You can get a fanny pack in any color that you feel. I love the neon. That neon just pops. It's bright, burns my retinas. The neon. Big fan of that. Actually, my favorite thing is the hoodie. The hoodie, because it's got you got the little image, the little insignia on the front, and on the back you get that big back logo decal, and you can get that in a variety of colors, people. Let's see what some of the colors. Wow, you can do it in red. You can do it in blue. You can do it in gray. I can't tell what that is with my sunglasses on. And look, that looks like a winter. Yeah, winter green. I like the winter green one. Fuck, did we lose? We lost our picture for a second. Okay, we're back. Wow, that's really great though, Pete. I'm glad you're going to pick up a coffee mug. So check out the merch, guys. Okay, enough of that. I want to, for a moment, before we move on to the main menu here, I want to, for a moment, clarify something. It has come to my attention that I was corrected about some things from past episode, and I really encourage. When I spew, my gobbledygook on here, if I am wrong, or if the truth, or know the right thing, or whatever the correction in the story, let me know so that I can clarify it, or take appraisal of what you're saying and decide whether I agree with it or not, or whatever. In this case, I was brought to my attention that I was super wrong about the Graves thing, about in particular to Graves, the Argyle Goolsby tour posters. Apparently there was more than just Argyle Goolsby. There were posters made up like that for the whole band, but the only one that I saw was the Goolsby one. So I thought that they were it looked like they were using Goolsby to advertise, hey, we're coming back to Europe, when in fact the tour had already been booked before Goolsby had even joined the band. So that was illuminated to me. And, like I said, if I get something wrong, I want to make sure that I'm clarifying or correcting anything that I may or may not be aware of. So I just want to put that out there, that, whatever, that Goolsby being on the tour poster definitely probably helped in PR perception, but Graves was already going back to Europe. So no matter what, having Goolsby there on the poster, no matter what that may or may not have done, they were already going back to Europe. They did not do it with the help of Goolsby. Goolsby was not in the band when that tour was booked. Just want to put that out there. And I also, yeah. So if anybody is repeating something that I said in a previous episode, just be aware that piece of information is not accurate. So yeah, there's that. Okay. Peter says he's going to do a hot pink. I like that. Yes, that's great. All right, so let's finish off this. This has taken 3. I thought this would be one episode. This has taken 3 episodes to do, just because I'm such a chatty Cathy, I guess, when we're going through this stuff. Let me make this bigger, actually. There we go. We left off right around the Earth AD era, I believe, right? We went over Doyle being a pink pupil. We talked about Walk Among Us. Man, I am so trying to remember where we left off. Here we go. All right, I think we finished. We were last on page 18, so we're gonna please turn to page 18 in your workbooks, children, and we're gonna move on from there. Continuing on, we'll start. This might be a little bit of an overlap. Well, this is overlap. I remember Mike Stacks asked Jerry Only about the slash. And again, for those of you just joining us, or for those who this episode might be your first episode, we are pouring over an interview with Jerry Only in 1993. We looked at an interview from 1983, and now we're doing an interview from 1993. And we also have an interview from 2003 with Jerry Only. So we're going to look at that one next. And that's not next episode. As a matter of fact, God willing, I don't want to speak out of turn, but God willing, cross your fingers, I have a big surprise for the next episode. That is not 1979, but that also too is coming. And one last thing that I will say, Pizza Punk is coming. Pizza is the shit. Don't you know it? Because pizza is so punk. It's punk. Ooey gooey cheese. Right down to my knees. It's so punk. It's punk. All right, back to the material here. So This is Jerry Only in 1993 talking to this guy, Mike Stacks from Ugly Things, number 12. He's asking him about the Slash Ruby record deal. And Jerry Only saying, we got ripped off up front. The deal was that they'd pay it, put it out. If Jerry is unsure if they recouped money or not, because he doesn't really know, because Glenn was handling that sort of stuff. And Jerry also claims that 70,000 copies were sold in 2 weeks. Whew. But that does sort of tie in with what Chris D was saying in an interview about how Walk Among Us became one of the best-selling records for those guys. So, all right, moving on. Walk Among Us stands as probably the ultimate Misfits recording. A thrilling, livid depiction of their horror movie vision of the world, pummeled across over 13 tracks of violent punk rock and roll. The highlights include the rabble-rousing Hate Breeders, the brutal, wrenching All Hell Breaks Loose, and the brilliant Astro Zombies. With just a touch of my burning hand, I send my Astro Zombies to rape this land. Prime directive, exterminate the whole human race. This and other tracks like I Turned Into a Martian and their tribute to the horror movie mistress and Plan 9 from Outer Space star Vampira employ their B-movie obsession to the hilt, while Mommy Can I Go Out and Kill Tonight and Brain Eaters show a fiendish sense of humor that is also at work. Walk Among Us shows us just what it was the Misfits had that other punk bands couldn't hope to match. Originality and imagination in their lyrics, fitting in with their unmistakable image, powerhouse musicianship, including a singer who could actually sing. True. Is there a difference? There's a difference, right? Isn't there a difference between a singer and a vocalist? I would say, and this is not to knock him because I think he's an excellent vocalist, Keith Morris of Black Flag and Circle Jerks, he's a vocalist. I don't think of him as much of a singer, in the sense that he is singing, but he's more of like it's not like he's singing, with classical, he's not singing with like classical training, or he's not singing like, bravado or like with operatic scale or whatever musical theory sort of situation you want to cobble together. Keith Morris is like a poet reciting poetry. And that's not to say that Glenn is not either, because Glenn is both of those things. He's a vocalist and he writes poetry but he sings it. He really sings it, and that would only further develop with Danzig, right? But at the time, you had a lot of these punk guys who are just like sort of, I would say Henry Rollins is a vocalist too. These guys, they're screaming, they're shouting, guttural. There's a talent in doing that as well. It's not just about like, being able to sing in key, in pitch. It's about like the energy that you're putting out as the front man who's representing the band. And I think that is like another thing. Besides, you have like vocalist, you have singer, and you also have front man. And front man usually lines up with being a vocalist and a singer. But sometimes a front man might be a guitar player. Maybe the front man is a guitar player, but he's also singing. And when you think of a front man is a person who's like the face of the band. Generally, when I think of a front man, especially when you think about these bands who like they break up or they get there's various lineups with various members, and the only original member is the singer, songwriter, vocalist, who's also the face of the band. That's the front man. That's what I think of as a front man in that sort of way. So yeah. Where was I? We got to finish this today. We really got to finish this today. The Misfits had the Misfits had that other punk bands couldn't hope to match: originality, imagination in their lyrics, fitting with their unmistakable image, powerhouse musicianship, including a singer who could actually sing, and songs that went way beyond. Okay, here's where we're going at. Songs that went way beyond the simplistic formula riffs of 95% of their peers. Glenn Danzig's songs have real melodies that soar and dive over crafty, intelligent chord changes. A song like Skulls, for example, is unmistakably punk rock. Yet the structure could be more easily belong to, say, an Elvis or a Dion in the Belmont song than something by the Sex Pistols or the Circle Jerks. And that's why the Misfits music connects in a way that your average Ramalama punk band never could. Unfortunately, instead of being a launching pad, Walk Among Us turned out to be a peak. Wow, I agree with that, man. Turned out to be the peak. It was true. It was the peak of everything, Walk Among Us, you know? And yeah, man, those songs, Attitude too, like all those songs, they are Elvis songs. They're DM and Belmont songs. That's what Sean Garrison is saying from his Little Fiend series that we went over. Find it in the old archive on YouTube. Where he's talking about, these Glenn and Jerry, like they revered, as much as they revered punk rock, they revered the crooners. They revered Dion. They revered, Elvis and the Everly Brothers and this and that. So much so that after the 95 Misfits imploded, Jerry put out Project 1950 record. Which again, if it was just like the Jerry Only band, it's like, whoa, Jerry Only enlisted, Dez from Black Flag and Marky Ramone to play in his backing band and do 1950s covers. On paper, that sounds great. But when you look at it as like, this is the Misfits doing a cover record, it doesn't sound so great. It doesn't work out. It doesn't work out that well. Mike Stacks. What do you think of Walk Among Us, the way that it came out? Jerry Only. To tell you the truth, I think it's the best thing we did, The problem here was that it was a stepping stone, and no one intentionally wanted to accept that as what we were and what we would be. In other words, it wasn't time to draw a tangent. It was time to go forward. And that was the demise of the band after that point. Glenn wanted to get heavy into this thrash stuff. And me, I wanted more songs like Astro Zombies and Hate Breeders. If we had 3 albums with 2 or 3 more songs like that on each one, we would have been in. And you're not going to get there with Wolf's Blood. Death Comes Ripping is a good song, but it's not an Astro Zombies. I mean, that's true, but man, there's nothing like opening those reunion shows with like that Death Comes Ripping, that and then just launching in, just jumping, seizing through the air as they come crashing down, and there's a demon sweat thrall in the audience. But yeah, I think, as I've said in episodes past, man, Astro Zombies is like the best representation of this band. I love each and every song, but that is like, that for me is like, that's the pinnacle. That's what you want on the tombstone for the coffin that's buried 6 feet below. The point in the road was getting to the Walk Among Us and then becoming better, but everybody missed the point. I saw it. It was clear as the nose on my face. I said, shit, this is us. This is when the image had taken hold, and that's when we did that Evilive stuff. We were there, Mike Stacks. And then when you were doing a lot of the touring and stuff, you had a pretty high profile. Jerry Only. Right. We were prime time. Right then, we should have gotten picked up. You see, Slash, they wanted to write us off as a quick investment and a quick buck instead of taking it to the potential. Mike Stacks, where did you tour? You went all over the USA. Jerry Only. Yeah, we did about 3 or 4 trips over the whole country. We circled it. We usually started high and came back low, going across the top, down the West Coast, and then through the South and back up the East Coast. We got around. It was good. There was a lot of money that came over the doors, and I would pick up the tab all the way around most of the time. So any money the band was making was going right back into the band. And that's true, man. Like DOA, like Black Flag, like a few other guys, the Misfits were one of those bands that were just out there friggin' touring. They were in Florida, they were in fucking California. They were in, Michigan, Ohio, Colorado, Arizona, Texas. I mean, they went all over. I don't know how much they cut through the middle of the country. Like, I don't think the Misfits ever play in Oklahoma or Nebraska or Tennessee. I'm not sure. But yeah, they really did get around, man. Mike Stacks, what incidents stick out in your mind from being on the road? The band had a reputation for a lot of violence. Woo-wee. All right, we're getting to that point in the story. Let's see what Jerry Only has to say. Again, remember, This is Jerry only remembering things 10 years later after the band's demise. He's not yet back with the 95 Misfits. He's still probably pretty bitter. He's in the middle of a lawsuit with Glenn to gain back the control of the name, and actually probably on some level trying to get some of that publishing. Jerry only. Well, you know what it was? Every time we played, we were ready to play. We were psyched, you know? You get that knot in your stomach. And when we played, there wasn't ever a time where there was an audience so small that we didn't want to go out and still kick ass. You know what I mean? Isn't that kind of like a sportsman? It's almost like a sporty sportsman vibe. You know, like we're going out to play football. We're going to do the best. We got to score some touchdowns, you know? Just like go out there and do your best to like just crush it. You know, that's what I get. That's the kind of vibe I get from what Jerry is saying here. And when we played, there wasn't a time, blah, 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 blah. Who was there or what was there had no bearing on it. It could have been the Hollywood Bowl or it could have been Al's Bar. It didn't matter. And I think that was one of the good things. They just put 100% into what they were doing. They would just go out there, play to, 50 people, or played, the most they ever played was 3,000 people with Black Flag at Santa Monica Civic Center. One of their last shows, actually. And I think that was one of the good things. Everybody loved what they were doing. When we used to play, I would stand up. He says, I would stand up. I think he means I would stay up. Everybody loved what they were doing. When we used to play, I would stay up until 4 or 5 in the morning. If we got off at 1 o'clock or something and not be, oh, no, okay, never mind. I don't know what he means here. When we used to play, I would stand up until 4 or 5 in the morning. If we got off at 1 o'clock or something and not be able to sit down, just keep walking back and forth saying, oh man, that was so great, because we were into it and we were playing from the heart. That's what the band was all about. It was about doing what you believed. Unfortunately, it all came to a peak out in that one time, At that point, Glenn lost sight of what really should have been done. And I know what should have been done. We should have just kept our image, made our shit together, made our equipment better, bought our own sound system, bought our own light system, and stayed on the road. I mean, we wouldn't have gotten a sold out Madison Square Garden show if they hadn't gone the way that they had gotten. But what would that band have been like? That, like these road warriors just out there, just doing it year after year, becoming a well-oiled machine. Maybe Doyle does improve. Doyle never takes a break. He just keeps improving in that punk rock sort of way. And they just get tighter and tighter. Maybe they find a steady drummer. They put out a slew of albums. And maybe they break up in like the 90s instead of the 80s, and then do a reunion. Who knows, man? I mean, you can go anywhere with that story. The American Dream. Mike Stacks. You were talking about being pumped up when you were on stage. I have a video of a show where you smash your bass on the first song. That's fucking insane. Ha ha ha. You always see bands smash their equipment at the end, but you smash yours at the beginning. And the reason why he did that is because he had a ton of knockoffs. George Germain, that guy, that mysterious benefactor, the guy we're always talking about, the mysterious George, whose face you will see very soon in 1979. He taught the boys how to do shit. He taught the boys how to buy their gear in bulk, switch out the pickups with better pickups, and then they would just smash those guitars, bringing all these guitars out on the road, Jerry only says, yeah, I remember one time I forgot to plug one in and I got really aggravated and smashed it up. And then I saw the cord was laying on the ground and I felt like a jerk. Ha 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 ha. Mike Stacks. Were you going through a lot of equipment at that time? Jerry only. We played one show with Black Flag at the Santa Monica Civic Center. We just talked about that. Doyle and I both went through about $2,000 worth of instruments, exclamation point. We were buying them for $1.25. So they're paying $125 a piece for these guitars. So it was about 8 guitars and 8 basses in a 45-minute set. Ha ha ha. So I don't know what that figures out to in minutes. That's like Mike Stack says, that's like one every 2 songs or something. Jerry only. Yeah, that's what it was. But the thing was to do it quick and to get it out of the way. It was an actual like karate chop thing, You would smash it, and it had to go on the first shot. Otherwise, you'd look stupid. So that's what it became for them. It's almost like it's like Cobra Kai or like Karate Kid or something. It's like they're up on the stage. Here, let's take a look at this photo. Look at this photo. See if I can jimmy that closer for you. That's a cool photo. I don't think I've seen that. I mean, they're up on the stage. Just here, I'm gonna make this my thumbnail real quick. Let's try that differently. I'm like the only guy that poses for his thumbnail mid-episode. I'm posing. That's perfect. It's like, I just don't give a shit. Look at that, man. Look at that. Just breaking shit, man. Breaking bases, left and right. For them, it was like a Cobra Kai karate chop situation. They're just, it's just all about, it's about the spectacle, it's just about the spectacle. What and he was more concerned about looking stupid for not breaking the base on the first try than say even breaking his base, period, because it's about the show. Mike Stack says, what kind of bass was that anyway? Jerry Only. I was playing Rickenbackers then. I would cut it all up and glue the headstock on. I did that myself. Mike Stacks, that's an amazing looking bass. You still play that? Jerry Only. No, I made a much nicer one. He's referring to the Devastator guitar, right? We're making a guitar called a Rand. What? We're making a guitar called a Rand guitar. It's an excellent piece of equipment. It's just, the thing is, we don't have the time or money to invest to get it off the ground. Otherwise, I think we could make a real shitload of money with them. So I guess maybe the Rand guitar is the idea of what the Devastator and the Annihilator guitars were, where the guitar itself, if you look at really Doyle's, but you look at Jerry and Doyle's guitar, this is the whole guitar, right? This is if you're strumming down here, and then this is like the fretboard, and then all the little bat wing, sharp points, all that stuff is just accoutrement. The working instrument is just a solid bar, and then they put graphite. It's all made out of graphite, so it's super lightweight and super customized. And maybe that's what he means by the Rand guitar. If anybody knows more about that, please speak up so we can talk more about that, because I don't know what I'm talking about. By the time the Misfits started to tour and gain some national recognition in 1982, 1983, punk had given way to hardcore. So here you go. There's the change, people. It was a scene the band never fit into. Was it though? Is it really the scene that the band never fit into? I would say quite the opposite. They adapted very well. Even if the music suffered for it, everybody embraced Earth AD. I would say, if anything, they were like the fucking the plow point, plowing the way for everything else with Earth AD, man. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that sentiment. The Misfits were punks in the more traditional sense. They refused to play by the rules. To them, anarchy didn't mean some kind of utopian political manifesto. It meant chaos, disorder, and a no-holds-barred fun. When 1,000 bands yelled tuneless rants about Reagan, for the Misfits, it was horror business, as usual. Yeah, okay, yeah, their music had no political agenda. To some extent, okay, did the Misfits' music have any political agenda? No. Face value. And I spoke to Rocky about this. I'm asking Rocky, what is this song about? And Rocky, Jerry and Doyle's brothers, just like, the songs are literally what they are at face value. I Turn Into a Martian is about turning into a Martian. Like that sort of thing. Astro Zombies is about Astro Zombies. But Glenn was the one who wrote those songs, and Glenn was influenced by Bukowski, and there's definitely there's definitely deeper underlying stuff. I mean, it's not, what's going on, Kenny? It's not so, I don't think it's so cut and dry as the Misfits were non-political. I hate that shit. If you're creating art, there is some sort of statement you are making. And a statement that you are making is a political statement. It doesn't mean like politics in the sense of like, I think taxes should be higher or lower. It simply just means like, you're making a statement about something. In the case of I Turned Into a Martian, is the politics about being fucking different, about being from another planet, which, if you really wanted to plug that into something, being an illegal alien from another country. Is that what Glenn is writing about? No, definitely not. But I just think on some level, all art has something innately political about it, even if it's a song like, I don't know, even if it's a song about fucking, or about having sex, like there's something that could, that there, maybe there's like sex politics in it. I don't know. Peter brings up a good point here. He says, I don't think they were picking sides in politics. I just want to clarify, Peter, I agree with you. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying that they're picking sides in politics. I'm just saying that when you are an artist, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're writing songs, whether you're painting a picture, whether you're shooting a film, whatever it is that you're doing has some sort of message behind it, whether you agree with it or not. You might do it thinking it's nothing. Maybe you're an abstract artist who's just drawing scribbles for the sake of drawing scribbles, but somebody is going to, look at your art, pull a message out of it. Like someone looks at all the scribbles and goes, life is chaos. That's the message. And that's politics on some level. So I'm not saying like, oh, like liberal versus conservative politics. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there are messages. And, you could say, well, when I created this art, I had no meaning behind what I was saying. I have no meaning behind what I'm saying at all. Fine. But, the reception of art, it's a two-way street. You can create the art, put the art out in the world, but then you have an audience that's taking in the art. Now, you might walk down the street and go, oh, I turned into a Martian. It's about like, Martians. Yeah, Martians from Mars. But me, I go, wow, like, all my life when I was growing up, this is true story, folks, true story. When I was a little kid, I was called the boy from Mars, right? And they used to call me Gonzo because I got a schnozola, and maybe because my face is fatter, it doesn't look so big. But when I was younger and skinnier, I had a big fucking schnozola. It really stuck out. And people call me Gonzo. Gonzo turned out to be from another planet. So, hearing a song like I Turned Into a Martian is incredibly political for me. But it's not political in the sense of like, it's not fucking like presidential politics. It's the politics of being a teenager. It's the politics of being on the outside of things, So in that way, all stuff is political, even if there is no, political agenda on the forefront, like it says in this paragraph. Peter says, I agree with you. I think Glenn would use horror movie titles, but the songs had deeper meaning. You know who's a great band that does that too? Blitzkid. Blitzkid does that as well. Blitzkid is really, really good about writing songs about monsters, or writing about human emotions and using monsters to do it. They're fucking king, and they're really that's not original on their part. They're just doing what has been done from the fucking very beginning of time, since movies were a medium. All monster movies are really just allegories for the horrors of being a human being. I'm ugly and I'm unlovable. And how could anybody love me? Look at Beauty and the Beast, man. I mean, it goes all the way fucking back. Peter says he wouldn't sugarcoat it with the titles. Yeah. Or he would sugarcoat it. Yeah. Sugarcoat it, veil it, whatever you want to call it. There are underlying socio-political messages in all forms of art, even the Misfits, even if it's not like politics in the way you think of politics, especially punk politics, which I think is what is being expressed in this writing right now. I would love to hear, how is Ghouls Night Out a good example of sugarcoating the title about a bunch of ghouls eating meat? What is your interpretation of that song? I have an interpretation of that song, but I'd like to hear your interpretation of that song. But I'm going to move on right now because I still want to make sure I get through this. I got a hard out at 9:00. So let's keep going. We're going to keep fucking moving on. While 1,000 bands yelled tuneless rants about Reagan, for the Misfits, it was horror business. And as usual, their music had no political agenda. They were about pure, unbridled energy, dangerous and fun, entertainment. If sometimes fantasy and reality blurred and it all spills over into real blood and violence, hey, That was just too bad. One incident in particular did much to alienate the band from the hardcore scene. Okay, now we're going to hear, once again, this is exciting. Once again, we're going to hear about the San Francisco incident, but from Jerry Only's perspective in 1993. Let's take a look. Mike Stacks, going back to you guys on tour, there were a couple of incidents that are now legendary, and this is again pre-internet legendary. This tale has circulated without computers. Okay, the one that everyone still talks about is the gig in San Francisco at the Elite Club. Now, what happened there? Now, mind you, I don't know. I've heard Rocky talk about this in my interviews for this documentary. We've heard Glenn talk about this in the Pusshead tapes. We've also heard someone who was there that night, who was a promoter, his point of view. What's going on, Rue? How are you? We heard his point of view, and now we're going to hear Jerry's point of view. Oh, shit. Well, basically, justice was served. I hate to say it. We had gone to the show and we had to fly all the way out to San Francisco just to do this one show. Okay. We were down in LA. We flew to LA and then we drove up to Frisco to make the show. There were 10 bands on the bill, and every band that gets up there is getting full cans of beer thrown at them, and they're getting beat up, and they're just letting it happen. And okay, so this is what Glenn was talking about, how there was no security. Glenn claims there's no security at the show, which is there's no buffer between the audience and the band. This is also kind of what happened to Randy from Lamb of God, right? There was a kid who jumped on stage who ended up dying, and Randy had a manslaughter charge placed upon him. And there was some sort of culpability from the bouncers, in the sense that the bouncers are there to run interference. You need bouncers. And by the way, I am not excusing anybody or anything. I have no horse in this race. I'm not here to defend or prosecute. I'm just simply commenting as a complete outsider, 35 years removed from the situation, right? But their security, in their defense, well, I just said it, in their defense. What a fucking hypocrite. From their point of view, there is a venue should have some sort of security to prevent people from getting up on the stage and, fucking shit up with the band in some way, shape, or form. Or if someone's throwing fucking stuff onto the stage, that the bouncer needs to run interference and remove it so that the performance can continue, right? So there were 10 bands on the bill, and every band that gets up, there's getting full cans of beer thrown at them, and they're getting beat up, and they're just letting it happen, and they're trying to smile and shrug it off. So I'm all pumped up. So Jerry previously is telling us how he gets pumped up for shows, and he's probably pumped up in other ways, if you know what I mean. Again, I'm not insinuating anything, just from what I've heard. Jerry had the ability to pump himself up in more than one kind of way. But probably the same adrenaline from, like I said, going out there, playing the football game. Kenny Morgan says, reminds me of Evilive when Glenn says, one more time, motherfucker, you die. I believe someone was throwing things at him. Yeah, man. I mean, that's what happens when you're in this sort of scene. Look at the Channel Club footage where there are kids just piling on top of Glenn. And Glenn is still somehow holding onto that mic for dear life as he's fucking singing his heart out. Like, what the fuck? Man, that is tough. All right, sorry. So anyway, so I'm all pumped up. This is Jerry. So I'm all pumped up and I'm watching from the balcony, and I turned to the guys and I said, listen, I don't know about you guys, I says, but the first motherfucker who hits me with a can of beer is going to wear me for a fucking coat. Ha, ha, ha. Know what I mean? Take that. Wait, this is crazy. Jerry, listen, I don't know about you guys, I says, but the first motherfucker who hits me with a can of beer is going to be wearing me for a coat. Meaning Jerry's going to be right on top of him. You know what I mean? Because I didn't come all that way to get abused. So, okay, it starts winding down. That's that okay thing that they do. So, okay, it starts winding down. So we go on. So we're playing, and there's no mention of the language. Apparently the F word, derogatory word for gay people is uttered. The term gay is uttered a bunch of times from other sources, if we're trying to paint an objective, fair picture. So there is some antagonizing because I was part of the Misfits persona and stage character, but there's not one mention of that from Jerry in 1993. So we're playing 4 songs, we're banging them out, and then the kids start acting up, So then there's this one kid in front of Doyle, and he's throwing full cans of beers at Doyle's head as hard as he can, just out of reach. He can't grab him. So that's what I think that's what Rocky was saying about the corralling. Rocky mentioned that he was trying to corral him with his guitar. He's trying to reach this kid that's antagonizing him. So I'm watching this kid out of the corner of my eye, and I keep saying to myself, soon as this set is done, as soon as it's done, I'm not going to throw my guitar against the wall. I'm gonna jump out. Hold on. Let me switch this over. I'm gonna jump out of it and jump, and I'm gonna jump out of it and jump and grab this motherfucker and kick his ass. That was what was on my mind. And as I'm thinking that, Googie jumps right over the drum kit, right out into the crowd in one leap, and punches this kid in the face because this kid was just trying to hurt somebody, and then fucking Jersey represent. So he punches the kid in the face, and the kid goes flying back into the soundboard. So Googie goes chasing him, and we're still playing, Well, what happens is this really big guy grabs Googie, and Googie can't get free. So my brother was running the sound. So that's Rocky, right? Rocky is running the sound. And he went to help Googie. My brother was running the sound. There's a brother between me and Doyle. So he goes running over and smashes the guy in the side of the head, and he lets Googie go. And then my brother takes over because he said the guy was like a monster. So I guess Rocky took over for Googie. So Googie starts running, and the guy couldn't catch him. So Googie gets free, and he grabs the kid again because he was really pissed off because he's watching this kid too. And he hits him in the face, and the kid comes flying from the soundboard back into the stage. As soon as he hits the stage, Doyle smacks him on the head with his guitar. Ha, 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 ha. And the kid, there was blood everywhere. His guitar got fucked up, and the whole thing, and the whole place went quiet when they heard the kid get kicked in the head because everybody was like grabbing each other. Okay, so hold on. Let's pause for a second. Let's pause this real quick. So another account that I've read on here on the podcast, on this Facebook Evilive show, says that Doyle hit the wrong kid. Doyle hit a 14-year-old boy that had nothing to do with anything. He was just standing by the side of the stage, wrong moment at the wrong time. And apparently this kid, the legend goes that 2 years later, he's hanging out at school, and he it's such bullshit. It's not real. Pulls a 2-inch piece of wood, a splinter, out of his skull. But apparently that kid is not the same kid. So maybe in the chaos, Jerry is targeting or thinking that it's the same kid that got hit deservingly, when really it was a different kid who had nothing to do with anything, who was just there at the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't know. But it's interesting. This to me is the best part about reading these interviews and reading about the same story over and over again, because the events are so different. It's not the same story. It's a different story. So Googie's chasing. Well, what happens is this really big guy grabs Googie, and Googie can't get free. So my brother was running, blah, 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 blah. So he starts running. The guy couldn't catch him. So Googie gets free, and he grabs the kid again because he was really pissed off. So because he was watching this kid too, and he hits him in the face, and the kid comes flying from the soundboard back to the stage. As soon as he hits the stage, Doyle smacks him in the head with his guitar, and that kid, the blood was everywhere. His guitar got fucked up, and the whole thing, and then the whole place went quiet when they heard the kid get kicked in the head, because everybody was like grabbing each other and pulling and shoving, and we're looking around. Once this kid got hit, everybody shut up, and we're looking at the kid going, holy shit. Everybody, the crowd and us, everybody was just standing there with their mouth open because it just got out of control. And then the next thing, this big, I'm just using I'm not gonna, all right, I will in an effort not to offend. All right, just for the sake of, I don't know, is this like, can you say this shit? Like, you don't know what the fuck you can and can't say anymore in the world, like without fucking offending people. And then the next thing, this big lesbian looking chick, let's just say that this big butch lesbian looking chick goes, imitates in a screeching voice, "You killed him." Ha 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 ha, much laughter. And the whole place broke out into a fucking mad riot at that point. Now, I remember Rocky telling me about this big girl, this very, very big girl who got kicked in the face by somebody who, somebody kicked her in the face from the stage. I mean, God, could you imagine if fucking Doyle had killed this kid? Like, he so could have fucking killed him. It could have fucking happened. From my understanding, Doyle was terribly upset by the whole situation. No matter what you hear, that guy was upset. I don't actually know, but that's what I've heard. Mike Stacks. So how did you get out of there alive? Jerry Only. Well, the thing was that we had no problem walking off the stage. It was just senseless, you know. There was actually like 1,000 of them and 4 of us. So, I mean, it would have been a hell of a time. If they really would have understood the odds, they wouldn't have hesitated. You know what I mean? They could have easily got us, but we just stood them off. And then we went back up to the dressing room, which in the Elite Club is up on the balcony. And there's the stairway, and you can only fit one person at a time up the stairs. So I said, well, look, if they come up one at a time, we'll throw them down on the floor. Ha, 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 laughter. They can only come up at us one at a time. And between the 4 of us, we'll just pick that person up and throw them off the balcony onto the floor. So they're basically like staging, like it's like 300. The Greeks are holding off the Persians 300 style at the hot gates in San Francisco. It was fucked up. It just got out of hand. But these details, you don't hear any other account of this story with those details. That's why you interview everybody. That's why all the guys that are not like Glenn, Jerry, and Doyle, that's why you want to hear their versions of the stories. That is what I'm hoping to some extent we'll see a little bit of in They Came from Lodi, the documentary. You know, that's the idea. A little bit. That's crazy. So they're just like going to hope that they're going to come up one by one because that's all they can climb up the ladder. And at that, you know, when you have the hot gates, you know, numbers don't matter anymore when you have the hot gates to defend. So those are the hot gates for those guys. And then the way that story ends, apparently, is that the Misfits go to a college or a radio station campus or something, and they steal a bunch of skulls and they spray paint San Francisco is for a bunch of F words and leave. Which to me, I thought hilarious, not using the slur against gay people, but just the idea that the Misfits would break in somewhere, steal skulls, get a can of spray paint, and then spray paint that as if they were doing battle with the whole, you know, town of San Francisco. I don't know. It's pretty fucking funny. Mike Stacks. So you guys never played San Francisco again? Jerry Only. No, we never went back. Glenn would go back with Samhain and sort of nullify with some of the guys that were at that Frisco show. Mike Stacks. I read somewhere that you were arrested for grave robbing in New Orleans. Jerry Only. You're pretty well informed. What happened was, all right, so now we're going into these are like the big incidents with the Misfits, and they're just great fucking stories. Jerry Only. You're pretty well informed. Mike Stacks. I read somewhere that you were all arrested for grave robbing in New Orleans. Jerry Only. You're pretty well informed. What happened was we played for this guy. He was a mercenary. He was booking stuff in San Francisco, and then he moved down to New Orleans. He called us up and he said, hey, guys, I'm booking this new club. It was called Tupelos, and I believe it's still there. I believe. He said, listen, I'm trying to get some big bands here, but it's kind of a small place. You guys could pack it. Why don't you stop in? I says, all right, what the hell? Whatever we can do to help you out with your new job, you got it. So we went down there to play, and we did there they are with the big shark. That's at Universal Studios, the big Jaws shark. There's the band. Look at Googie sticking out like a sore thumb with his blonde hair, you know, just always a misfit amongst the Misfits themselves. But I mean, there you go. That's the I would say this is really the classic lineup, right? This is the classic lineup for 2 years. The Walk Among Us lineup, the iconic lineup of this band with Twins of Evil. You got the Iceman and the torn up Reichenbacher. Glenn's wearing his Crossbone shirt. I mean, this is the iconic band that is the Misfits. It was a pretty cool gig. It was a cool show. And they said, hey, down here, they bury everybody outside in these mausoleums. So why don't we go and take a look? We'll show you what, we'll show you what the graveyards look like. We said, all right, cool, let's go. The one thing was this guy had a Harley Davidson. And what we didn't know is that we drove into the worst section of the United States. There's a murder there every 2 minutes or some shit like this. So we pull into this place and it's surrounded by projects, like apartment buildings. And there were these two graveyards, maybe the size of a football field, 100 yards by 100 yards square. So there's two of them. And there's this big long alleyway, like a straight road that goes right down the middle and connects the projects with the train station and the main street. So we park in the middle of this thing with this guy with the bike. When we're in there, we get surrounded by cops, okay? Like the whole place. The cops are going with the searchlights and everybody's ducking, trying to stay away and shit. Robo was in, I don't think Robo even entered the cemetery. He was in a van humping some girl, as far as I understand. Mike from I Hate God, who's supposed to do an interview with me. I even was there at St. Vitus and we didn't get a chance to do the fucking interview. It was really, God, someday I got to get that guy. He was there for that. He was a teenager at the time. Mike from I Hate God. There were a bunch of people there. The Necros were there, except for Todd Swallow, who was he was crashing with some chick. So the thing was, I didn't see any harm in it, Hey, look, we're fucking checking out the graveyard. What the fuck? That's what Jerry's saying. Let's just say that there were some more nefarious plans for that graveyard. Maybe Jerry wasn't aware of them at the time. What the fuck? You want us to leave? We'll leave. You know what I mean? So I hop over the wall and I go and take a look out to our friendly officers, and bang, they got me up against the wall. Spread your legs, lean on the wall, the whole deal. By the time they got the whole band, a couple of them got away. They ended up bailing us out and shit. But what wound up happening was the cops had a field day and they had a bunch of fucking northern boys down here and they got them caught in a bad spot. Mike Stacks. Well, that probably took one look at you guys. Mike Stacks. Well, they probably took one look at you guys in the graveyard. Generally, yeah, we kind of threw them too. We explained, hey, look, we're in a band. Our buddies wanted to take us around. What are you guys doing out here? Drinking and doing this? Oh, yeah, we had 2 6-packs of beers with us. I mean, we weren't out there making a mess, but they didn't buy it. Raymond says, Mike from I Hate God has mentioned being there before. I'd love to hear him elaborate on it. He did an interview for some New Orleans punk doc where he actually talks about the story in full. So it is out there, Raymond. You got to find it. Mike Stacks, did they press any charges? Jerry only. Well, the thing was, we bailed ourselves out. We were supposed to appear in court the next day, and the problem was when we got out, we had a show that night in Hallandale Beach, Florida, and the club was right on the beach, and they gave us a free room in a hotel. So if you think about it, what are you going to do? Are you going to play a club on the beach in Florida? Or are you going to wait for court the next day? What are you going to do? Mike Stacks, well, you're going to play, right? Jerry only, you're damn right. Ha, 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 ha. So we blew town. I love that they just left. They were due for court and they had to drive all the way back down there at a later date. Now, he doesn't mention the bail story at all. Rocky had all the money. Rocky also didn't get caught, so he had to go down and bail them all out. And they played a joke on Robo, where Robo thought they didn't have enough bail money, and they said, "Sorry, Robo, you got to stay in jail overnight." Mike Stacks, you made a video for Brain Eaters and another song, right? Jerry only. Here we go. He's talking about it here, man. Wow, you never hear talk about this. We were working on one for Skulls, and it never came out. We had done some tapes. We were doing some effects with Skulls, blowing blood out of them and crap, but it never gelled anyway. Wow. So okay. So we have a bunch of music videos from the Misfits. This is all of them. Ready? You have the Night of Living Dead video that was shot by Corey Rusk in 1980, 81. It had to be 1981. With members of, I forget which band, being zombies, and the Misfits are pushing over tombstones in a graveyard. It's on Umatic tape. Then you have the Brain Eaters video, which everybody knows and has seen a billion times, and that was done up in Boston. And we heard in that 83 interview, they're talking about the day after they filmed that video. And then this is unbeknownst to me. I didn't know any details about the Skulls video. I guess the Skulls video is literally this. We were working on one for Skulls, but it never came out. We had done some tapes. We were doing some effects with Skulls, they're shooting blood out of skulls, but it never gelled. Mike Stacks, what's the story behind the Brain Eaters one? Jerry Only, well, the Brain Eaters song was sort of like a horror chant song. And what happened was we went up to Boston. A buddy of ours had a restaurant, actually a very famous restaurant, and they were renovating the third floor, and they allowed us to go in there and set up all these tables. They gave us all this china and these glasses and beer and whatever we wanted for the video, and they shot the video for it. All the bands from Boston came down and sat around, and anybody who was anybody wound up getting in the video. It was just good, clean fun. Mike Stacks, what did you use for the brains? Jerry Only, brains. Ha 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 ha. Mike Stacks, cow brains or something? Jerry Only, yeah. Mike Stacks, what bands were sitting around the table with you? That Jerry Only says, that I'm not even sure. I believe it was Gangrene, SSD Control. We heard in that other video, in that other thing. Pete says, that sounds awesome. Blood shooting out of skulls. I would have loved to. I want your skull. I need your skull. Gordon asks, these are back porch videos? They're not. However, there was a video for Skulls that was done, but it was using footage from Greystone Hall on 10/30/1983, the very last show that they used, which at the time, oh shit, yikes, that just came off. My pinky toenail just ripped off, like Glenn Danzig's tooth in the Danzig Legacy story. Hey, my tooth just came out. Raymond says, do you know the cemetery they filmed the Night of the Living Dead video in? I'm from Ohio and love to go there. I'm from Cleveland. Raymond, I don't know the precise cemetery. Todd Swalla would know that answer. I do know it was shot on U-matic tape, which was an early form of like VHS tape. The tape apparently still exists. It's in Corey Rusk's possession. They did use still images from the video for show flyers. So if you look carefully enough online, you might find the flyer. Somebody probably has it. Someone knows where it is. Somebody put it in the thing. And there's my favorite lesbian of all, Rich, blowing me a kiss. Hope you're well, Rich. I'm not even sure. I never used to get too buddy with anybody. He's referring to the bands in the Brain Eaters video. Mike Stacks, what other bands were you friends with? Jerry Only, we were friends with the Necros out of Detroit. We were friends with Black Flag in California, Cro-Mags out of New York. Basically, anyone who was playing along the same lines as we were. I don't think the Cro-Mags, I mean, I guess the Cro-Mags had formed in 84, right? I'm not too brushed up. You know, it's funny. I was just talking with Paris Mayhew from the Cro-Mags on my other show, Pizza Punk, which is due out very soon. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. I forgot to ask him what year that was that the Cro-Mags formed, but the Misfits were very friendly with Harley Flanagan. Maybe that's what Jerry is referring to. Harley Flanagan was asked to do the drums on Earth AD and turned it down because he was so involved with the Cro-Mags, I guess. So maybe 83 was when the Cro-Mags first started. Mike Stacks, when Glenn wrote songs, how did he present them to you at practices? Here we go. So here is where we're probably going to get, this is where Jerry is going to talk about, you know, his input in what he did in the band, right? Like what he did and didn't write, which is from the beginning, the very first part one of this series. We were debating on what he would say. So here it is. Jerry Only, or Mike Stacks. When Glenn wrote songs, how did he present them to your practices? Jerry Only. He just bring them down and go, let's go from here to here. Mike Stacks. Did he get out a guitar and do that? Jerry Only. No, not really. Mike Stacks. He just tell you the chords? Jerry Only. Yeah, E, A, and whatever we would come up with in the cuts and the arrangements and stuff like that. That's why, to an extent, it kind of bugs me that we never got any credit for anything. Half of the great cuts and drum cuts were me and Doyle and the drummer working those things down. But such is life. What are you going to do? Ha, ha, ha. So there you have it. I mean, he doesn't really seem to make a big deal about it. I don't know, man. We've been over this. I don't really know where I stand on that. I still think that Glenn Danzig is the singer songwriter of these songs, but I think it's wrong to say that those guys helped him flesh some of that stuff out. They did on some level, in some way, shape, or form. But does that qualify as songwriting credit? That's the ultimate question. Does this qualify as songwriting credit? Yes or no? I don't know. Mike Stacks, tell us a bit about the Fiend Club. People would send you weird shit like skulls and stuff. What was the weirdest thing you got? Jerry Only, Tesco V from the Meatmen. Tesco was a huge Misfits fan. He was a big friend. He was very good friends with Glenn for a spell. And the Meatmen were one of the touch and go bands from the Midwest, along with like the Necros and Saccharine Trust and things like this. Tesco V from the Meatmen sent me a dead tarantula, and man, did it stink. Ha ha ha. I just remember it, not because it was the most vulgar thing I got. It just smelled so bad. Who knew tarantulas stunk like that? We were afraid to open the box. Something's fucking dead in there. What is that? So we opened the box, and we were all expecting to find something really fucked up, and it was Tesco's spider. His spider had died. At the time, we had this place called the Pit. In the Pit, you've heard of the Pit demos, and the Pit demos are not really demos. What they are, this kid at the time, he was a kid. His name was Dave Scott. Dave Scott is from a band called Adrenaline OD from New Jersey, who used to play shows with the Misfits and were big Misfit fans and went down to the Pit. The Pit was at the Kaiafa residence in Lodi, New Jersey on Grove Street, where the Misfits would rehearse. And so Dave brought his tape recorder to the Pit and recorded a practice. And in this recording, you hear them working out Queen Wasp, Mommy Can I Go Out and Kill Tonight, just a bunch of songs, right? A bunch of later Misfit songs. And so when they're recording the tape, when they're recording the show that would become not Evilive. No, I'm wrong about that. It's not Evilive. So the Mommy Can I Go Out and Kill Tonight that's on Walk Among Us is a live version. It's not the studio version. Whatever live show that was, kid in the audience, Dave, I believe it was either Dave or maybe it was Bruce Wingate. Well, I wish one of them was here to clarify that for me. One of them was familiar with the song from this Pit tape that got, circulated as the Pit demos. It's not demos. It's just a rehearsal. It's the Misfits rehearsing and fleshing out the songs. And you can hear Glenn going over there. They do Die, Die, My Darling. They do a bunch of songs. They were just kids in the neighborhood who had brought a tape recorder. You know why? Because I think they were interviewing them for some sort of fanzine or student newspaper or something. Maybe that's what it was. And that's how the Pit demo. So that's what Jerry's referring to when he says the Pit. The Pit was their practice space, and it was a pool house, I believe, at one time. And that's the pool house with the riser. They built a riser in the pool house, and you see a lot of Static Age photos of them posing in the Pit. At the time, we had this place called the Pit. The Pit was in my base. Okay, so it was in the basement, not in the pool house, whatever. And they had the giant cave stalactites hanging down that they had cut out of foam. It was in my basement in Lodi. We took all these shag rugs in black and red, and then I made like a batwing platform with bars in it, cement walls. I had like this dungeon room in the back. I took the whole downstairs of this 2-family house and made it this real plush dungeon thing. And then what I did for the shelves, I took pieces of 4x8 plywood, and I would cut long bends in it. So you would put 4 of them in a row, and it would come together as points. And I'd chain them to the beams in the ceiling. So the shelves were 4 foot wide, and they just stuck out in points. It was like bat wings all around the corners. We had all our toys and robots on out up there and shit. It was great. Just like they created a layer in the Pit. So I'm sorry, the Pit was not the pool house. That was a different scenario. Mike Stacks, where's all that stuff now? Jerry Only, well, I still got all that stuff, but that room has been busted up. We sold the house and we moved up here to Vernon, New Jersey. We live in the country now, which is cool. Instead of having one house, we got 4 or 5. I've been to this place. So I've been to the neighborhood where Jerry and Doyle both live. I went to a certain someone's house who lives in one of those 4 or 5 houses and did some interviews. That's where I interviewed Rocky and some other people. I never knew which one was Doyle's house, and I never knew which one was Jerry's house, but I was there in that neighborhood. And it makes me realize that had I come out at the right time with my equipment, that I might have seen those guys had they been there at the time when I was recording my interview. However, you know, I mean, Rocky was there, so who's not to say that the other guys weren't around? Marty says, Marty Marmar says, Jerry once told me he wrote the intro to Astro Zombies. Interesting. Andrew Taylor, I've been wanting to get a bottle since I lost my previous one during a breakup. That stuff is great on everything. I am assuming you're talking about the hot sauce. Hey, you know what they say, the sauce is the boss. So that's interesting. Well, I still got all that stuff. Blah, blah, blah. We got 4. So instead of having one house, we got 4 or 5. So they sold the house. They bought 4 or 5 up in Vernon. I got my own place. My mom's got her own place. My grandmother's got her own place. We used to live together before I was married and shit. Me and Doyle used to hang out downstairs. My mom and my other brother had the middle, and then my grandmother was upstairs. But now everybody's got their own place, and it's cool. Wow. That's interesting. And it doesn't mention his dad. Before I was married and shit, me and Doyle used to hang out downstairs. So that was their bedroom. My mom and my other brother, Rocky, they had the middle. And then my grandmother was upstairs. But now everyone's got their own place, and it's cool. And we got our own factory. That's Pro Edge. And that's cool. And that's where both Jerry and Doyle rehearse. For a few years, it was just Gorgeous Frankenstein rehearsed there. And then Jerry's Misfits rehearsed there, you know, back and forth, like that sort of thing. I really don't mind too much that I don't have all the fucking money, but you know, that's money. You can't wipe your ass with it, and you can't eat it. Huh? I don't regret what I had to do. It's just a shame the greatness doesn't exist. I really don't mind too much that I don't have all the fucking money, but you know, that's money. You can't wipe your ass with it, and you can't eat it. Okay. In 1983, Googie left the band and was replaced by Robo from Black Flag. Mike Stacks, why did Googie leave the band? Okay, this is great because we just did a whole video about why Googie left the band. And I mentioned that I had spoken, and I've spoken to Googie. I've heard Googie's point of view as to why he left the band. Go watch that video on my YouTube channel if you want to hear what Googie had to say, sort of. Here's what Jerry only has to say. And I have no idea what he's about to say. This is a surprise to me. This is going to be so much fun to read. I've never heard Jerry's point of view on Googie leaving the band. Jerry only. Well, Mike Stacks, why did Googie leave the band? Jerry only. Well, Googie and Glenn didn't get along, okay? The reason being that, one, Googie wanted to get paid. Ha, ha, ha. You see, Googie and Glenn would fist fight over things. We were out in California one time, right? And things were getting suckful. I love that he uses the word suckful. It was getting really bad and shit. There was no money. The gig sucked. We didn't get the money we were supposed to make. I borrowed $3,000 to put on that tour from my old man, and I was going back with nothing. Basically, the tour fucking flopped. And Googie wanted 2 Here's the famous cheeseburgers incident from Jerry only, the cheeseburger incident. And Googie wanted 2 cheeseburgers instead of 1, you know? The thing was, him and Glenn had a fist fight. Me and Doyle said, hey, we didn't get any money we were supposed to make. I borrowed $3,000 to put on the tour from my old man, and I was going back with nothing. Basically, the tour fucking flopped, and Googie wanted 2 cheeseburgers instead of 1, you know? The thing was, him and Glenn had a fist fight. Me and Doyle said, hey, you 2 guys better just sit down. This sucks enough. You guys are fighting over cheeseburgers. I got to go back and tell my old man I blew $3,000. It's one thing for you guys to fucking argue over a 59-cent McDonald's fucking cheeseburger, I said. We've been living on my old man's credit card out here, and we're up to about $3,000, and we got nothing to show for it, you know. So Googie and Glenn had an argument at that time, and pretty much Googie told him to kiss off. I don't blame him a bit. If Doyle wasn't in the band at that point, I probably would have packed it up too, you know. The most important thing is that it's fun. If you're having fun, everybody can feel it, and that's what makes you believable. Is that it's true? Ha 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 ha. It's not like it's the same show. If you go to see Van Halen, it's the same joke night after night. Every show we did was something else. some other bullshit would come down. The thing is, on a daily basis, you just got to handle your problems a day at a time, and that's it. You kick their ass, and fuck it, you're on your way. So that was one of the problems in the end. When it was really time to break up, it just sucked to go play at that point. I knew it was senseless. There was nothing left. Because in the end, Robo came to play in our band, and then we started doing the thrash shit. Robo was in the band, and when Robo left, we had only learned 5 new songs, I think, for Earth AD. You know, we were just doing the thrash shit, and it was kind of disheartening, you know? It's fine for a bunch of skinheads that come to the show, but if I don't like playing it, and Doyle don't like playing it, and it's really not the right direction for the band, why pursue it? All right, doing an Earth AD album, but let's get back on track. Meaning, like, let's go off in this direction, let's explore it, and then we'll get back on track. That's why I was kind of surprised to hear Glenn's new stuff, because it's not thrashy at all. Now you hear him, oh, they're playing 50 million miles an hour. Yeah, you fucking dragged us that way, you know? You want us to play this thrash shit. How do you play this thrash shit slow? Ha 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 ha. So that really morphed into a whole nother answer. But that's the cheeseburger incident. That is not why Googie claims that he left the band. Go listen to that other video to hear why Googie's side of the story. It is interesting to hear Jerry tell his version of that. He thinks it's the cheeseburgers. If you followed Misfits Central for years, they used to have compilations because everybody on the board had a band. And one of the compilations was called You Can't Have Two Cheeseburgers. And it was named specifically after this incident, which probably came from this magazine, because I don't think I've ever heard that story told anywhere else. It was about the two. This was then reported on Misfit Central in the timeline. That's how everybody knows about it. But to get back to the Earth AD stuff, you know, he's talking about, oh, they're playing, you know, getting resentful. They're playing 50 million miles an hour. You know, when Glenn wrote that stuff, first of all, a lot of that stuff was supposed to be for Samhain, right? There was a bunch of it that was going to be for Samhain, and some of it was supposed to be really slow. And it's Glenn who claims that they sped it up. So who's really to blame here? Was it Glenn who wanted them to speed up the Earth AD stuff, or was it Jerry and Doyle listening to Van Halen and wanting to play faster as a result? Or was it the fact that they're playing with all these hardcore bands and playing just breakneck, watching these guys play breakneck speed and jumping in there, and then, you know, again, the music suffers. There's no space for melody when Glenn sings. It's just all I am the beast, you know, just super fucking, you know, just barking. There he's no longer a vocal. There he's not fucking singing. He's a vocalist now, you know. He's not really singing the stuff as much as he's just fucking barking it. The Earth AD album is something of a backbone of contention among Misfits fans. But while Jerry's dismissal of it as thrash shit may be a little harsh, the consensus seems to be that it is their most disappointing release. Fuck, dude, that is such bullshit, man. You know, whatever. 37 years on, that thing is like, that's the bee's knees, man. It's the bee's fucking knees. You just got to be in the right mood for Earth AD. There's nothing wrong with Earth AD. Earth AD is phenomenal. You just have to, you know, it's like selecting a wine from the basement. Oh, I think I'd like some red wine as opposed to some white wine. Marty Marmar says, I had a Doyle Found Club flyer back in 89-90. I called the number on the flyer and asked the girl answering if we could talk to Mo the Great. I was put on hold, and soon after, Jerry actually picked up the line. That's awesome. I ended up taping some calls I made by putting another phone on the speaker. Called him a few times, being a 15-year-old kid. Had friends around listening. Jerry was awesome to us kids. Marty, if you find the tapes of you talking to Jerry on the phone, I will motherfucking play those tapes on this show. I'm just straight up telling you right now. You fucking DM me on the They Came From Lodi page. I hate checking. I'm so bad with checking messages. I will fucking go look in my inbox now to go find that shit. To clarify, the phone number was for the machine shop, and Jerry took the time out of his work to talk to us a few minutes. Yes, I believe I had heard that, actually, that it was the machine shop. Back then, he was that accessible, man. You could just call that number and Jerry would just talk to you. Jerry loved talking to people. Back to the Earth AD album. The power and the violence of the music are intensified to a level where melody and song structure are smothered in a wall of overdriven guitar and feedback overdubs. I think that, wow, that is fucking, that is so good. I love the way he described it. The power and the violence of the music are intensified to a level where the melody and the song structure are smothered in a wall of overdriven guitar and feedback overdubs. I like that a lot. Oh my God, how much? Jesus fucking Christ. Are you fucking kidding me? There's still so much more to go. All right. Well, let's fucking power through it, huh? Fuck, I'm supposed to be out of here by now. All right, let's fucking do this. Look upon me. Overall, the standard of Glenn's writing is well below par. Cuts like Wolf's Blood and Hellhound are relentlessly powerful but virtually hookless, while other, stronger songs like Earth AD and Devil's Lock are almost lost in the oversaturated production. That's not to say that there aren't some amazing tracks. Queen Wasp is a furious, blasting, buzzing tour de force, while Death Comes Ripping wins with distinctive whoa, 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 sing-along backing vocals and a demoniacal arrangement. Demonical. Where's the A? A demonical arrangement of thundering drums, vicious guitar, and a finale that seems trapped in hell's whirlpool. Most inspired of all, though, is the staggering green hell, a ruthless exercise. I love the way this guy writes. A ruthless exercise in dynamics, which drags you from high tension one chord guitar and bass chug to explosive blasts of rapid change, switch, and yell. One of the most crushingly intense pieces of music ever committed to vinyl. And their best on Earth AD. The Misfits sound compelling and invincible at their worst, just like noise. Oh no, I read that wrong. Let me take that again. At their best on Earth AD, the Misfits sound compelling and invincible. At their worst, they just sound like noise. Unlike other records, which hook you the first time, Earth AD takes some getting used to. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I have an idea. Guys, you are in luck. Or maybe you're not in luck. Maybe you don't give a shit. What I am going to do is do something that I've never done before. I am actually going to come back. Come back, little Jeffrey, and talk me to death. Marty says, I have one or two tapes. My buddy still has one, but I stole a James Taylor tape and tried to tape over. You motherfucker. You taped over that shit with James Taylor? You son of a bitch. Marty, let's fucking dude. Marty, you digitize those motherfuckers. I will play that shit on the fucking air, and I will talk about it the way I'm talking about this interview. You fucking contact me, buddy. You contact me, and I will fucking do that shit. I will do that in a fucking heartbeat. Kenny says, Earth AD is the fire under Cliff Burton's ass. That's right, man. Metallica was massively influenced by Earth AD. Yes. Tony says, Jerry was a really cool guy when I met him after a show in Bogarts in the 90s. Doyle just went to the back. Jerry said Doyle just wasn't really into talking to the fans. You know what, man? Hey, how you doing, Nick? What's going on? You know what, man? We say it every episode. Jerry's not a fucking bad guy. He's not. I mean, I would say, you know, Jerry is, when it comes to business, is you know, he fucking strong arm you, but you know, he's a fucking good guy, dude, who does, you know, he's really fucking good to his fans. So here's the deal. Like I just said, for anybody who's just tuning in, I am literally going to be back at 10 o'clock. We're going to do part 2 of this episode. How about that? I'm going to duck out for an hour. I'm going to start a brand new broadcast. You're getting 2 episodes in the same day. And we're going to finish this sucker, and we're going to take our sweet ass time doing it. Sweet, just really sweet. I'm going to milk it. Going to milk it like milk of magnesia. Okay. So I'm going to come back. Like I said, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Keep your eyes peeled. I'm going to return. And we're going to do 2 episodes back to back. I will come back.